During the cultural upheaval of 1960s and 70s Britain, amid the rise of miniskirts and Beatlemania, a quieter but no less astonishing trend began to take root in affluent suburbs and countryside manors. The domestic ownership of exotic big cats. Jaguars, leopards, and pumas were not confined to zoos or travelling circuses, but instead prowled through private gardens and posed alongside children in family photo albums. This surreal practice was enabled by a cultural moment obsessed with prestige and rebellion, where the exotic represented individualism, privilege, and glamour. Newspapers often ran images of women in leopard print, dresses cradling live cheetah cubs, mirroring celebrity trends from the US and Europe. Media reports from the time, such as BBC radio segments and archived articles from Ethai Times, recorded these private menageries as fashionable curiosities rather than public concerns. At the time, buying a lion cub or a cheetah was no more bureaucratically complicated than purchasing a Siamese cat. Specialist pet shops, such as Harrods' famed exotic pets department, openly sold wild animals. Wealthy customers could browse glass enclosures where primates, leopards, and even ocelots were available to those with cash and contacts. Trade magazines such as Fur, Feather, and classified ads in the field offered big cats alongside cockatoos and pythons. Dealers exploited vague customs categories such as ornamental livestock, allowing exotic imports with minimal checks. The United Kingdom had no central licensing or oversight at the time. DFRA's 2005 retrospective report notes that hundreds of large carnivores entered the country undocumented during the pre-1976 period, many sold as prestige pets without concern for long-term welfare. The public's enchantment turned to alarm as incidents increased. In 1972, a jaguar escaped from a private estate in Oxfordshire, leading to a manhunt that made national headlines. The animal was recaptured unharmed, but not before terrifying dog walkers and school children. According to Oxfordshire police records released under FOIA in 2006, a gardener was injured during the incident, suffering a deep thigh wound while trying to trap the jaguar inside a greenhouse. The man was hospitalised, further fueling debate around public safety. The Guardian published a 1974 expose titled Lions in the Lounge, highlighting neglect and legal voids, while the RSPCA issued strong warnings about both animal welfare and human risk. Mounting concern laid the groundwork for legislative change, with MLLS citing specific escape cases in Parliament debates that culminated in the 1976 Dangerous Wild Animals Act, transformed pet ownership law in the United Kingdom. The legislation mandated that private individuals could only keep specific exotic species, including lions, tigers, leopards, and lynxes, under license conditions approved by local authorities. Licenses required secure enclosures, proper veterinary care, and inspections. However, the Act did not include a national surrender plan, resulting in a flood of difficult choices. Some owners willingly relinquished animals to safari parks and accredited zoos. Others, facing regulatory pressure and personal attachment, resorted to clandestine release. The RSPCA wildlife agencies recorded over 100 reported abandonments in the law's first 3 years, while DFRA's retrospective census from 1981 highlighted the inadequacy of enforcement in rural areas. The release of exotic cats into the British wild, though often undocumented, has left behind a trail of speculation, mystery, and occasional evidence. Natural England and the Scottish Wildlife Trust have both archived reports of large non-native carnivores spotted in the countryside. Wildlife biologists have noted several incidents involving paw prints, animal remains, and scratch marks inconsistent with local fauna. A 1982 study by the University of Exeter mapped the first clusters of post-Lister legislation big cat sightings. Among these, Cornwall's Bodmin Moor emerged as a hotspot, birthing the enduring legend of its dark feline inhabitant. The Beast of Bodmin moor gained national attention in the 1980s following multiple livestock attacks. Farmers reported missing sheep, torn carcasses, and eerie nighttime sound. An independent investigation by the Ministry of Agriculture in 1995 concluded that there was no verifiable evidence of a big cat, though it did not rule out the presence of large escaped animals. Meanwhile, local legend deepened. Regional newspapers such as the Cornish Guardian continued to document encounters, often treating them with seriousness. Urban myth and local experience began to blur, a dynamic reinforced by similar sightings elsewhere. The Beast of Exmoor saga escalated during the mid-1980s, when reports of mutilated livestock grew common in Devon and Somerset. The South Molton incident of 1983, where over 100 sheep were reportedly killed, prompted serious government response. Then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher authorised the deployment of Royal Marines to investigate. Armed patrols scoured moorland for weeks, but returned empty-handed. The lack of physical evidence led to claims of hysteria, yet the government's willingness to act validated public fears. The Western Morning News recorded over 70 local testimonies between 1983 and 1986 alone. Such legends are now interwoven with Britain's rural folklore. Unlike Loch Ness or Black Shuck, big cat myths draw on plausibility and a fragment of truth. Ecologists acknowledge that some sightings could stem from real escaped pets. Yet they also highlight ecological imbalance, apex predators in fragile, prey-poor environments. Several studies published by the mammal societies suggest these introductions, while not sustainable in large numbers, could result in solitary survivors persisting for years in secluded zones such as Thetford Forest or the Brecon Beacons. Modern sightings are often logged with local councils or police forces. Freedom of Information Act FOIA requests obtained by The Guardian in 2024 revealed over 2,700 dangerous wild animals were still legally kept in homes, including dozens of big cats. In 2019 alone, 74 big cat sightings were reported across Wales, primarily in Carmarthenshire and Powys. Surveillance footage, paw print casts, and forensic analysis occasionally accompany such reports, though definitive proof remains elusive. One particularly striking case occurred in 2005 in Sydenham, London. A man jogging through a wooded area claimed to have been attacked by a panther-sized feline, resulting in minor injuries. Photos of torn clothing and claw marks were published by the Evening Standard, prompting expert zoologists to inspect the area. While no animal was found, local residents soon shared additional sightings. The case revived debates about whether these beasts were remnants of past legal loopholes or urban myths reborn in the age of tabloid amplification. While belief in big cats remains popular among amateur cryptozoologists, mainstream zoology continues to cast doubt. Experts argue that fragmented British habitats, harsh winters, and limited prey populations would prevent a sustained population of large exotic felines. Dr. Amy Sturgis of the British Zoological Society points out that the life expectancy of a released pet puma would likely be under a decade. Most cases, she argues, stem from misidentifications of large domestic cats, escaped zoo animals, or hoaxes fueled by social media echo chambers. Still, Britain's landscape offers concealment. Dense hedgerows, decommissioned rail tunnels, abandoned estates, and steep gorges dot the countryside. In rural Devon alone, there are 600 miles of woodland, with minimal footfall. A study by Cardiff University's Geography Department revealed multiple sightings were located near water sources and sheep pastures, ideal hunting territory. While population viability is doubted, the potential for individual survivors to live undetected is not wholly dismissed. The FOIA files further reveal persistent presence of exotic species, even after decades of regulation. Notable cases include a registered puma in Suffolk 2017, 2 leopards seized from a private estate in Kent 2020-21, and ongoing enforcement actions by council inspectors under updated 2010 regulations. Critics argue that existing legislation is poorly enforced, relying on reactive rather than proactive monitoring. Animal rights groups have called for a national database of exotic pet licenses with public transparency. More broadly, these sightings and the media's response reflect the cultural tension between modern Britain and its wilderness. While few truly believe that panthers patrol the Pennines, imagery lingers. In literature, television and podcast storytelling, phantom felines function like rural UFOs, both thrilling and unresolved. They speak to a public craving for the mysterious amid a surveillance-saturated society. Wildlife documentaries and folk horror revivalism continue to borrow from these themes. Ultimately, Britain's big cat legends sit at the junction of ecology, nostalgia, and unease, whether tracing a Somerset silhouette or following deer remains in the Forest of Dean. Enthusiasts persist with field cameras and night vision. The DEFRA Advisory Committee still receives citizen submissions monthly. Though no population has been proven, the legacy of once legal wild pets lingers in policy and public imagination alike. What began as a quirk of upper-class eccentricity in the 1960s ended as a parable of control, chaos, and unintended consequences. Britain's brief affair with exotic pets created legal ripple effects, birthed folklore, and left a permanent question mark scratching at the window pane of public consciousness. Whether myth or flesh, the big cats remain. If not in flesh, then in memory, museum exhibits, and muddy tracks beneath mist-shrouded trees.